I appreciate everyone being here during this challenging time. This is uncharted waters. Imagine for most of us, if not all of us. And so we're just trying to do our part to prepare for the future. And as always, take care of our student athletes and communicate with them daily, and with the hopes that, at some point they'll say play ball. And we just want our student athletes to be ready when that day hopefully comes. We got about 4 weeks left in the semester, and we're on track to have another good semester academically. So, as always, we challenge the kids to stay on top of their schoolwork, finish out on a good note, and then since there'll be no more baseball this spring, definitely get them ready for an NCAA-sanctioned summer baseball league, as well as professional baseball if everything gets back on track, as I said, hopefully this summer.
Okay, we'll take a question for Dan. Guys, we just lost everything on my, I'm going to need to dial in, and then I'm going to have you guys dial me back, okay? Did you hear me? Gotcha.
I didn't hear the question, so. See if we can hear something.
All right, I got to put you on hold to get the other end.
Welcome to Blue Jeans. Please enter. If you're the moderator, enter your moderator passcode. If you're a participant, enter the. You are now being placed in the meeting.
Okay, those on the line, back with you. We lost you, everybody, for a moment. You guys still with us? Thank you. Dan, did you hear that last question?
No, I did not.
Okay. Basically, they're asking your reaction.
As you can imagine, as I've told people, I drove in on Thursday morning preparing to play an ACC opponent and get our guys ready for practice. And we had a pretty good practice, and I drove home Thursday night and the season was over. I mean, just bizarre. So the competitive side of me and the side that had hope, would have wished they would have waited. But as you take a deep breath, you talk to many people throughout college baseball and the athletic world, you realize, a championship in June has preparations throughout the year. And, people would be preparing now to play in Omaha. And so you just realizing how this situation has changed daily. Yeah, it was the right decision, but I'm human, and I didn't want to hear that. College baseball didn't want to hear that. Our student athletes didn't want to hear that. But it's life, it's real, and we've handled it, and we've moved on.
Next question. Yep. What was your message to the team? Because this is something you obviously don't ever prepare for.
And it changed. I got to meet with them Thursday night. I had a message. We met with them again on Friday. And then the message through the text messages daily, has been consistent. The first message was, as we always say, we have to be professional. And we have to prepare to play good baseball. So whether it's a rain delay, a cancellation, at the time we initially thought it was just the weekend or weeks, and then it became the rest of the spring. So you have to continue to prepare these kids for life. And we say the game of baseball mirrors life. And obviously life's bigger than this game. And I respect how serious and how much effort, and it's such a big part of these kids' lives. But we also, again, challenge them that curveballs are a part of life, and this is obviously a big curveball. And so let's just win the day, as our phrase always goes. So however we can win the day, and you challenge them. You try to motivate. You try to use phrases that we use throughout the year. There's a reason we have a language in our program, and so that language sticks, and that language is real. And so words or phrases that we said back in August, and we said in November, and we said in February still stick today. And so one of our phrases was no self-pity. I mean, we can't crawl in the corner and feel sorry for ourselves. One of our other phrases was compared to what? I mean, there's a lot of terrible things out there in the world, and people always have it much worse than we have it. So I want these guys to be leaders. I want them to be ambassadors. Like I said, I challenge them first academically, finish out the semester. I challenge them in the community. Can they get involved in the community and help out? And I challenge them to help their families, help their neighbor, and with the challenge of how do they stay in shape. And we've been communicating with them on the baseball front, now that we officially know that the season is complete, and we prepare for the next time we get a chance to play.
Get it directly to them. Can you hear us, Dan? Dan, could you? Okay, just ask me. Are most still hearing gone home?
That's been changing. That's been fluid. Initially, that's what you love about the University of Louisville. It's what you love about the city. Most of these kids are from Kentucky or the Midwest, and they love being here. That's why we built the pro locker room, the Flaker family pro locker room. And because in the off season, the pro guys want to be here. And so initially, a lot of guys didn't want to leave. As I've been communicating with them multiple times throughout the day, just keeping in line to what's the school doing, what's Dr. Bendaputi saying, what's our athletic department saying. And so I'm communicating with them. But it showed me, it was a reminder as to why we built that pro locker room and how much these kids love being around this university, this facility, and of course the city. So each day goes by, more and more kids are texting me, and I don't blame, their parents, their families, all the uncertainty, all the rumors, all the things you hear out there. I don't blame them. I would want my son to be home at some point. But I do realize, when they go home, they're limited with resources, facilities, and they want to get back to normalcy. And even if that's just playing catch, taking BP, taking ground balls, running the bases, and that's hard to do at home. So, we'll just take it day to day, week to week. And as long as our facilities are open, of course, these players are welcome to be here. And with the biggest message, of course, is being safe, being smart, the distancing factor, just doing everything they can to take care of their health and those that they're around.
Reed and who? Gotcha.
I can now hear, Kenny. I got
Great.
the question. As I spoke to the kids, we've had a month of baseball, and as I said, fortunately, playing for the University of Louisville, they've had great exposure. It's not 4 or 5 months of a season, but it was a month, and we played good competition. We did have a lot of exposure. These guys have great resumes coming in. I'm glad and that the NCAA, and we're having the conversation that these seniors would have an opportunity to come back, but also realize they're in great shape academically. They're all graduating on time, if not early, as some of my juniors will. And if pro baseball is ready for them, I know they're ready for pro baseball. Same with the juniors. As we don't know what's going to happen with the draft, and I'm trying to talk to several people in professional baseball. Guys like Reed Detmers and Bobby Miller put themselves, you would think, in a great position if the draft were to happen today. But they're in good standings academically. They're close to getting their degrees. So the message is always consistent with our players. We just don't ever want them to settle. Just don't feel like you have to settle. You know what you're worth. You know where you're at. And if they're academically ready, physically ready, emotionally ready to cross the line in the pro ball, then chase that dream of being a big leaguer. And if they're not, we welcome them back. And so, each case is going to be on an individual basis as to how the draft works for them, where they feel they are academically and athletically. And as we always do, we always evaluate each player case by case. I heard the question. That's a hard one, Cameron. I mean, you don't know exactly what to say to them in terms of this year, this team. To our fans, to our administration, to our coaches, to the younger players. Fortunately, we consider ourselves a great program, and we always want to be a great program. We don't want to be a great team every few years. No disrespect at those that are. But we don't ever want one team to feel like they have less of a chance to win a national championship or do special things than another team. But you have to live in the moment, and you had a unique team, a unique situation. Maybe arguably the best starting rotation in the country, if not one of the best. And so, you feel bad for those kids because I always say this is their 3 or 4 year window. Now, yes, this is my 28th year, and I could say it's one of the best starting rotations we've ever had. I guess you could argue McKay, Harrington, and Funkhauser could rival it, and no disrespect, we've had a lot of great rotations over the years, but, I realize, you might not get a rotation like this again, but it is what it is. It's life, and there's no guarantee. We don't know what would have happened in the postseason and going to Omaha and winning a national championship. But you clearly saw the look in their eyes and the frustration, rightfully so. they believed they had an opportunity to win a national championship, as they should have, and they worked at that. They were very committed to each other, the team concept, and so for that, I hate it. And what do you say? I mean, what you can't sugarcoat it. You can't act like it doesn't matter. Yes, life goes on, and we hope we get through this challenging time, and you want these guys to succeed in the real world, in pro ball, you name it. But it'll always be a what if. There's no doubt. What if this year would have played out? But I'm not one to live in the past either. I mean, we have to move on and control what we can control, as we say a lot in our program. I haven't, but now that you brought him up, you've seen the stories, and but you know what? I've been doing this long enough, and that's fortunately, I don't live or die in just 1 year. I feel for the players. I mean, that's something that they'll live with the rest of their lives. But you know what? For all those that return, if they win a national championship in the next year or two, they won't ever think about this year. For those that move on, doesn't mean they can't do great things in life. So, my challenge to them is just not live in the what if world. It's out of their control. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't make an error, make a bad pitch, strike out, to lose a game and the season ended. So let's just move on. And like I said, control what they can control. And they got a lot of life ahead of them. And I want them to be successful in many, many areas, much more than just winning games. Definitely. That's the advantage of playing with a great program, a great team, is that you all help each other. It doesn't matter if they're coming to see Reed Detmers, they get to see everybody. And we've always talked about that in our program, feed off of the opportunities you had. And it was an unusual year where you had 3 draft eligible pitchers. In the past, they come to watch Nick Bennett throw. They come to watch McKay throw. They come to watch the draft eligible guys, and they might not see you on a day where an underclassman is, let's say, pitching. Doesn't mean they don't come to watch the position players, but they really set their schedule based on usually the starting pitcher and when might the relievers throw. So this was fun because we had guys that would show up on Thursday, Friday morning, and they'd be here till Tuesday, organizations, because they wanted to see every starter. They wanted to make sure they saw all the relievers. So I know there's several guys that feel like, they didn't get that opportunity. Hopefully they did in that 1 month. Did Adam Elliott, did Michael Kirian. Luke Smith finished out great last year on a high note, so hopefully he did enough. But Justin Levy, Danny Oriente, Luke Brown, Lucas Dunn had a great summer in the Cape and with USA Baseball. There was a lot of players, and it's going to be interesting to see. As I said, my message will be individual with each kid. My message will be consistent with all of them. Don't settle. And let's see what happens, and the challenge is really how do they stay ready when we do get the green light to play ball again? Because and something we hadn't talked about, but I can tell you, as we know, it's fluid in the world of athletics right now. Man, mental health. I mean, this is what these kids do. This is their livelihood. This is, their dopamine, if you call it that. this is what they love. This is their joy. This is their happiness. So I just got to keep text messaging them, keep encouraging them, hoping they have the right support system to, hey, we'll get through this. Everybody will get through this. Let's be safe. Let's be smart, and let's be ready to play great baseball when they allow us. Yeah, it was, as I said, I just go back to that Thursday. My routine, the practice before we play a weekend opponent, I stuck to my routine. I broke down their 3 starting pitchers. I wanted to have some info during our practice. I knew when practice started, things were starting to happen. And I knew there were some delays, if you call them that, weekends, weeks. And I didn't know if my kids had gotten wind of it. Looking back, I think some of them did because of their attitude that day of practice. And then, as I said, I'm driving home that night, and it's like a dream. I mean, it's like a bad dream. It's like a movie. You're just stunned. You don't, I experienced Hurricane Hugo in 1989 in Charleston. I was close enough to Katrina in New Orleans where I saw the displacement. So I had dealt with some terrible things, but those were pockets of the country that were displaced, and that was very temporary. And unfortunately, I guess Katrina was longer than they would have liked it as families were displaced and things. But I mean, how do you prepare for something like this? I just trust my faith, a lot of prayer, a lot of great support, a lot of great leadership, and just stay in communication with everybody because, as we say, the real world is tough. And as the saying goes, you're either in a storm, you either just got out of a storm, or you're about to go in one. And, hey, we're in the middle of a storm right now. And, but I'd like to think our kids are prepared to handle it as best as they can and come out okay on the other side. We had a meeting. We had a meeting Thursday afternoon, wherever the status was at that point, and then we had a meeting Friday afternoon. And I believe by Friday afternoon, we obviously knew, unfortunately, about the World Series was canceled, the NCAAs. I don't believe at that time, we didn't know the entire spring. We knew we were going to be on hold for a period of time. I still think in that Friday meeting there was hope, and then unfortunately, as each hour and day went by, you saw the Power 5 conferences, and eventually it just—I don't remember the exact day or time it came to an end, but we just keep communicating with our kids, and through social media, they're up to date with everything that's going on. It was just different. The thing about it, if we go back to that Friday afternoon, we still had hope, and as their leader, I can't be, I can't be the sour faced guy and feel sorry for me and no self-pity is what I'm preaching. At that time, we still had hope, and why wouldn't we have hope? And we didn't know. We've never experienced this before. So honestly, not the hardest meeting I've ever had. I mean, when you're in this long enough and you lose in a regional or super regional or in Omaha, there are some there are some really, really tough meetings. Now, am I going to get to meet with this group again? I don't know. But it's going to go up there as a unique period in my career and something they'll always remember as well. And but again, we go back to our language. We go back to our culture. We go back to control what you can control. And do what we ask you to do, whether we're playing another opponent or not. You know, as I remind them, when you play for us, you're under our care 12 months a year. As I tell them, when you play pro ball, I worry about those guys because for 4 or 5 months, they're on their own. And that's why we try to teach them to be professional. But when you're in our program, it's 12 months a year. So we'll talk every day. We'll text every day. We'll do everything we can to help you guys achieve the goals you want to achieve. And so it was very professional, nothing real dramatic, nothing real memorable that came out of it. Just, hey, be professional and lines of communication will stay open, and we'll do our best to keep you guys in the loop.